Hey class, Mr. Oliger here. I am out today, and so this is your lesson. It's going to be taught by me through a video. It'll actually be a few short videos that the sub will play for you um, so that you can get the material for today. You have homework tonight. That homework is to get in Google Classroom, go to the unit website, and take the Unit 2 or I'm sorry, not Unit 2, the writing terms quiz for level 2. That's going to be due Wednesday at 2:48, the end of the day, Wednesday, 2:48. So take that writing terms quiz that's in there. Remember, you can take it up to 5 times so that you can master it and get all that information. Today we're talking about direct quotes, and we're also going to talk about in-text citations. So these are two skills that you need. They're skills that we're talking about in level 3. You're going to need them for next step level 4 when you start to compile your sources. So let's talk about direct quotes. Direct quoting is part of what we do in MLA format. So you guys have heard me talk about MLA before when you wrote that Romeo and Juliet essay, but MLA is a style of citation used to write papers and cite sources, and it stands for Modern Language Association. Basically, a bunch of smart people get together, and they are called the Modern Language Association. They decide kind of the standards for how research papers should be. In college, you might use something different, maybe even in high school too. You might use APA, which I'm not sure what that stands for, but you might use APA. There's another one called Turabian. There's another one called Chicago style. But there's formats out there that they want you to use. MLA is a good one to start with. That's why we use it in high school. And so that's why we're talking about in-text citations, because it's part of the MLA format. So why cite sources? Why is it important? When writing a research paper, citing credible sources makes your argument more believable. If you're writing a paper about the zombie apocalypse, for example, having a direct quote from a well-known researcher who has a PhD would be much more impressive than supporting your point of view solely with your video game experiences. I know you guys love that zombie mode on all those video games, but if you're writing a research paper, finding some biological researcher out there who could say something about zombies is a much better source than your musings about Call of Duty or Left 4 Dead or whatever. Citing sources with direct quotes. One way to cite sources in MLA is to use direct quotations. And we're going to focus on direct quotes. There is another skill called paraphrasing that we're not going to focus on quite as heavily this year, just because direct quoting, we noticed this year and last year that the students really struggled with this. So we just want you to get direct quoting down first. One way to cite sources in MLA is to use direct quotations. As the name implies, when directly quoting a source material, you use quotations to indicate which words come from the source. So here's an example. A noted scientist states, 100 years ago, the average temperature of the Earth was about 13.7 degrees Celsius. Today, it is closer to 14.4 degrees Celsius. And then you can see the in-text citation at the end here, and you can also see the signal phrase at the beginning, and notice that our quote has quotation marks on either side of it. It's very important that you have those three things. Let's talk about those three things. The first part is a signal phrase. For a signal phrase, you must introduce the quote with a phrase that tells where the information is coming from. So, some examples. According to, in the words of, as blank notes, or you have the quote first and at the end you say claims blank. So, the first time you directly quote information from a source in your essay, you must state the source's credibility. Tell readers why they should listen to this person or this source, what makes them an expert. So according to Bill Gates, an expert in technology, and then you would have a quote from Bill Gates, but we told him he's an expert in technology. We announced who he was and why he's important. It's important to do that. Quotation marks are the second part of a direct quote. You must put the words from the source in quotation marks. So here we go. Here's another example. Rodriguez and Belanca observe, there is our signal phrase, and then we have quotes. In some urban classrooms, children arrive without any notion of sharing behavior. If they have grown up as street survivors without strong early mediation for sharing, they may come to school ready to do battle to the death. And then we have an in-text citation down at the end here. We'll talk about why there's not a name here later on. But of course, you have the signal phrase, quotation marks for the quote, and then the in-text citation. Last thing you need is the in-text citation. So in MLA style, referring to the works of others in your text is done by using what is known as parenthetical or internal citation. This method involves placing relevant source information in parentheses after a quote or a paraphrase. Some examples here. Human beings have been described by Kenneth Burke as symbol using animals. And notice here that quotation mark is actually backwards. That's an error. We need to fix that. But you can see here that we put Kenneth Burke's name here, so we don't need his number in the in-text citation. That's important. Otherwise, you can see down at the bottom if I stop moving my mouse, human beings have been described as symbol using animals, Burke 3. So that Burke 3 is in there because we did not use Burke's name earlier in the sentence over here. If you use their name in the sentence, you don't need to put their name in the citation. But if you use their information and you don't put their name in the sentence, you need to have it in the citation. It's a very important piece. So what goes on in an internal or parenthetical in-text citation? By the way, all these three words are all the same thing. So you may have teachers over the years who use different terms. Even through high school, some of these teachers might use different words for these. Internal, parenthetical, or in-text citation, they all mean the same thing. For MLA format, you're required to provide the author's last name and the page number of the source. So here's an example. Romantic poetry is characterized by the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. There's another quotation mark issue. It's backwards again. We'll have to fix that. But that's written by William Wordsworth. So we have Wordsworth 263. Okay, we have the last name and the page number. We did not say anything about Wordsworth in the beginning of the sentence, so we have to have his name in the citation. Okay, and of course there are exceptions to the rules. Welcome to English class. There's kind of an exception to every rule. At this point, I'm going to stop the video and we'll go to the next video. It'd be a good place to ask any questions if you have them, or if you need to go back in the video and to get some of the information you missed. Maybe even ask a neighbor if there's a piece of information that you missed as we were going. Be back in a minute.